Hi there, it's Dom again, and today we're going to do something a little different. So often I talk about ray tracing. You may not be interested in ray tracing at all. You might have found this video because today I'm going to be talking about origami, which is something completely different. So I got into geometric origami to start with, looking at stuff called modular origami, but along the way I found this thing called a Dragon Ball, which is actually really neat, and I'll show you a couple now. Here we go. So this is the first Dragon Ball I made. Made out of a basic single sheet of paper and just folded up very carefully to make this shape, which you can then form into a ball. Isn't that lovely? Now, one of the problems if you start making these things is there's a limited number of patterns that you can choose from on the internet to make your balls, and that just seemed a little bit limiting to me, to be honest, and I really wanted to do one like this which had lots of different colours. So I started out by just making these up in paint and then printing them off, because printer paper is actually really good paper to make these with, and then after a while, as I tend to, I decided I'd want things a bit cleverer, like this one with little lines on the edges, lots of different colours in it. So I came up with a pattern generator. And if you're viewing this on my website, then you can probably see the pattern generator on the same page. So the point of this tutorial is how to use the pattern generator to generate these pieces of paper, and then I'll go through how to fold one of these as well. Although I have to say I'm not a master origami, so I think you'll find some better tutorials elsewhere. But I'll give it a go. So let's start off by having a look at the pattern generator. Here we go. So loads of settings here. It looks a little bit confusing, to be honest, but let's start off with this pattern selector at the top. So there's a basic stripes, which is like the blue and white ball I was showing you earlier. There's a flat red. We can have horizontal stripes with no lines. This is the gradient type that I showed you as well. And we've got a half and half pattern and this kind of random green on red selection. There's lots and lots of different variants you can make with this, and I'll just go through the different options, give you a quick overview, but I'd recommend you just have a play and come up with a pattern you like, and we'll talk about what to do with that next. So this is your lines, enabled or disabled. Foldable lines, if you disable that, the lines are thinner, but you need to fold along the edge of a line. If you enable it, then your folds would go right in the middle of the line, so that's a little bit easier, I think. Here's your line colour. Set whatever you want, really. White or black's probably not a bad idea unless you've got some really snazzy ideas. Give it a go, I guess. Here's the pattern. So this is 25% random. Actually, before we go to the patterns, let's talk about these primary and secondary colours. So each of the two colours that you can mix together in a pattern have a different gradient and two different colours. So if we just go for a really simple style, which is primary only, so this is now selecting just the primary colour, and even simpler if we just click first colour. So that picks colour 1, which is currently red, and that's the pattern we get. Now if I click second colour, that picks colour 2, which is currently white. Now if we go for a horizontal gradient, that blends from one to the other and back again as you go around the ball. Vertical gradient blends from one to the other going vertically, as you might expect. Now a HSL gradient actually does a hue, saturation and lightness interpolation. It's a bit complicated to explain, but it lets you do those nice rainbow colours. And vertical is the same thing vertically, although that doesn't really do much with red to white. Now random lerp picks a colour, basically if you imagine white and red as two ends of a gradient spectrum, it will pick a colour somewhere in between. And if we go random any colour, it will be a lot more specific about how it, well, a lot more general, so it will pick any red, any green, any blue on those separate ramps and then mix that together to form another colour. So random lerp will give you kind of randomness around a certain colour, and random any colour will just give you very random looking colours. But if we put this one up to a similar kind of red, you can see we can actually get colours that are very similar and just have a little bit of variation, if that's what you're after, or we can just lerp. Right, so that's the basics of this gradient and different colour schemes that you can use. Just to mention, the colours are in RGB format, so that's red, green, blue, and they're 0 to 1. So if you do 2, it's probably going to crash the JavaScript or something. Yeah, don't do that. Just keep it to 0 to 1. In fact, I think that has crashed the JavaScript. Better reload the page. Here we go. Right, so that's the primary. This is the secondary colour. So let's just set off with some very simple things. First colour here is going to be red. Second colour here is going to be orange. We're just going to pick first colours on primary and secondary, and then I'll show you what the different patterns do. So primary colour is just the primary, secondary colour is just the secondary. Horizontal stripes, one after the other. Vertical stripes like this down the origami ball. Now, because of the way balls are folded, they're offset by half a square on each row, and if you enable stepping, then they'll actually go continuously down like that instead. That can look quite nice actually when you fold the ball, but you might want to just have vertical stripes, and then you can disable your stepping. Half and half, that's just half of one colour, half of the other. 50% random, so that should be roughly 50-50 of each of the colours. 25% random is about 25% of the secondary, 75% of the primary. So there we go. So those are your basic options on patterns, primaries, secondaries. And just to mention, you've got general grid size settings here as well, so you can make your grid narrower or wider. You can have 8 rows, you can have 9 rows. Your cell size can be 10 if you want, or you can make it 50. It's up to you. And this random seed is useful if you're using random numbers, because it will change the pattern each time you change that number. So that's the basics of it. There we go. So let's just go back and pick the random, random green. There we go. So let's say we actually want to print this one off and have a go at folding it. So the first thing we do is go down here, we right click the image, click save image as, and then we save it on our disk as whatever colour you'd like to use. So I've got one here that I've already saved as redandgreen.png, and let's save that. Actually, I won't overwrite the existing one. Now, if I just go and find that file, let's go into Paint actually on a PC. Paint's a good way to do this. So, loading up Paint now. I'll just move this over to the other monitor. There's Paint. Now let's go and open the image that we just saved into our downloads folder. Oh, you'll excuse the kids. Here we go. So that's our image. Now, one of the nice things Print does is it has this print preview. If you go to this menu, print preview, and now you can see exactly how it's going to print off on your printer. And then the next thing to do, of course, is just to print it. And to save any pain, here's one I printed earlier.